Hello, and welcome to Quiet Nights, your gentle retreat into a world of calm and tranquility. Tonight, we invite you to unwind with a soothing story, crafted to ease your mind and guide you toward a restful night's sleep. But before we begin, take a deep, unhurried breath, and then another. Feel the weight of the day slowly melt away, like soft clouds drifting across the evening sky. Let go of any lingering thoughts, any tension that still clings to you. There's no rush, no expectations, only this quiet moment, just for you. As you listen, let the rhythm of the words lull you into a state of peaceful relaxation. Now close your eyes, settle in, and let the whispers of the night carry you away. Welcome to Quiet Nights. Long ago, where a wide, unhurried river traced its silver path, stood Ethelgard, jewel of the kingdom. Its preeminence was undeniable, for within its bounds, nestled like a pearl in an oyster, lay the resplendent palace of the royal line. The river, a lifeblood, pulsed with commerce. Its bustling port became a nexus, dispatching and receiving cargoes that journeyed downstream to the coastal towns and ventured even farther across shimmering seas. This artery of trade, coupled with Ethelgard's sterling reputation, infused the city with a vibrant, prosperous energy. Merchants, their fortunes flourishing, erected stately residences flanking the waterway. Graceful bridges arched across the current, seemingly defying gravity, uniting the lives and fortunes of those dwelling on opposite banks. Even artisans in humbler trades felt the benevolent current. Farriers found ample steeds to shoe. Smiths forged tools for eager hands, and apothecaries mixed tinctures for a thriving populace. The adage held true. A rising tide, indeed, lifted all vessels in this fortunate corner of the realm. The monarch, King Theron, possessed a jovial, celebratory spirit, perhaps bordering, some whispered, on the frivolous. His sole heir was the Princess Lyra, a young woman of considerable renown. From neighboring kingdoms, suitors arrived in glittering processions, bearing offerings of breathtaking extravagance, each aspiring to claim her hand. The throne room accumulated mountains of jewels, fragrant soaps crafted by distant artisans, intricate mechanical birds that sang clockwork melodies, and chests brimming with exotic teas and spices. Every aspirant endeavored to eclipse his predecessors with tokens of affection, yet these hopefuls faced a challenge more formidable than mere rivalry. Princess Lyra, blessed not only with luminous beauty and a determined will, but also with a keen, abundant intelligence, felt no urgency to wed. Destined for the throne, she had dedicated her youth to pursuits of the mind, immersing herself in classical lore, mastering languages, delving into history's chronicles, and cultivating a love for music. Her standards for a prospective consort were exacting, and suitor after suitor found themselves adrift in conversations that swiftly outpaced their depth. One by one, they departed, their hopes dashed. King Theron, for his part, felt no pressing need for her betrothal. He remained frequently engrossed in the pleasures of life, orchestrating and partaking in the court's endless diversions, rarely pausing to press the matter. King Theron owned a magnificent white charger, and escaping for long rides was among his chief delights. One afternoon, while enjoying a spirited canter through the sun-dappled woods, his mount shied violently at the sudden darting of a sly fox. The loyal steed reared. The king was unseated. Though largely unharmed, his foot became entangled in the stirrup during the fall. Days turned into weeks of rest. Court healers applied countless poultices, yet the royal foot never truly recovered its former ease. Walking, alas, became a persistent discomfort, casting a shadow over the king's cheerful disposition, making him fear that life's simple joys might forever be diminished. Some time later, a suitor presented Princess Lyra with a truly remarkable gift, a pair of slippers fashioned from the most delicate rose-pink silk, soft as a newborn's touch. These slippers, the suitor claimed, possessed the magic to allow endless dancing without the slightest ache of fatigue. Lyra, ever pragmatic, regarded this assertion with skepticism. Yet, embracing a spirit of empirical inquiry, she donned the slippers for a lavish ball hosted by a city merchant the following evening. To her astonishment, the promise held true. She danced with unflagging energy throughout the glittering affair, continuing well into the next day until sheer exhaustion compelled her to cease. Miraculously, her feet felt as light and comfortable during the final measure as they had at the first. Intrigued by their provenance, she questioned the suitor. He revealed they were acquired at great expense from a renowned itinerant cordwainer who had journeyed through his lands. An idea sparked in Lyra's astute mind. Could such craft, such subtle wizardry, be applied to fashion footwear for her father? If a similar enchantment could soothe the king's afflicted foot, perhaps his cheerful stride could be restored. She dispatched one of the king's swiftest, most trusted servants with instructions to locate this elusive artisan, promising the craftsman princely compensation for a miraculous cure. Weeks stretched into a month, and King Theron remained largely confined, his spirits low. When the king languished, a pall fell over Ethelgard. Festivities ceased, without their monarch to inspire the customary celebrations. The entire city found existence markedly less vibrant. At long last, the servant returned, accompanied by the fabled shoemaker, Master Corvus. A ripple of excitement coursed through the palace. Word spread that their guest carried with him a shoe purported to banish the king's discomfort entirely, to be presented in the throne room on the morrow. Naturally, Master Corvus was installed in the palace's finest guest suite. He took possession of his chamber with an air of consequence, directing footmen to place a distinctive, richly carved wooden chest at the foot of his bed. All eyes lingered on that chest, for within it everyone surmised lay the king's salvation. Among the palace staff was a young man named Ilian. His duties involved tending the fireplaces and maintaining tidiness throughout the grand rooms. Elian possessed a quiet handsomeness and a sharp intellect, fostered by his upbringing with his uncle, Master Silas, proprietor of a local bookshop. Consequently, Elian had spent countless hours immersed in reading, though his pockets remained perpetually empty. Securing employment at the palace had seemed his most practical path. Thus, he diligently cleaned, day after day, without murmur. Elian entered Master Corvus's chamber after the shoemaker had descended for the evening meal. He built up the fire, casting an eye about for any disorder. His gaze snagged on the intricately carved wooden box. Like everyone else, he felt its significance and succumbed to the urge for a fleeting glimpse. Tracing the elaborate carvings with his fingers, he resolved to peek inside just for a moment. He lifted the heavy metal latch and peered within. There, nestled on deep purple velvet, lay a single, large slipper of pristine white silk. He dared not touch it, lest his ash-dusted fingers mar its perfection. Never had he beheld footwear so exquisite. As he admired it, a sound echoed from the corridor, the shoemaker returning. Hastily, Elian closed the lid and slid beneath the bed, concealing himself behind the heavy dust ruffle. Master Corvus entered, and Elian heard the clink of items being placed upon a nearby table. Pressing his cheek to the cool floorboards, he could just discern the man setting out a small jar and a soft brush. Corvus then approached the wooden chest, perilously close to Ilian's hiding place, but paid the space beneath the bed no mind. Instead, he retrieved the beautiful white slipper. Carrying it back to the table, he proceeded to lightly brush the slipper's interior with a powder from the jar, a substance that scintillated briefly in the firelight. He tapped the brush thrice against the jar's rim, resealed it, and carefully stored away his materials along with the slipper. His task complete, humming contentedly, Corvus donned a velvet cloak and departed the chamber once more. Certain the shoemaker was gone, Elian crawled out. The table was clear, the chest securely fastened. Unwilling to risk discovery, he quit the room and resumed his duties. Yet, as he swept and polished, the image of the slipper and the mysterious glittering powder occupied his thoughts. What had the man been doing? Elian was not present in the throne room the following day for the grand unveiling, but he gleaned the outcome from the servants' excited chatter. The shoe, it seemed, was a triumph. The king's pain had reportedly vanished the instant the slipper touched his foot. He was already restored to his former ebullient self. Indeed, Theron was said to be strolling the gardens with members of the court, and plans for a magnificent ball were already underway. Master Corvus, richly rewarded with gold, had departed to fulfill commissions in distant lands. A collective sigh of relief swept through Ethelgard. Life would resume its joyful rhythm. King Theron plunged back into his duties and diversions with characteristic gusto, soon immersing himself in planning a spectacular river regatta for all the citizens. The day was declared a holiday, promising games, races, and naturally abundant feasting. A grand barge was prepared for the king and his court, spacious enough for dancing, from which they would observe the boat races. Speculation buzzed about who would receive the coveted invitation to join the royal party afloat. The holiday dawned under a canopy of brilliant sunshine. The river teemed with small boats adorned with colorful pennants, its clear surface sparkling as if strewn with diamonds. Music drifted on the air, mingling with the tantalizing aromas of festive fare. Aboard the royal barge, the king and his retinue reveled, dancing, dining, and laughing as the day unfolded. Then the unexpected occurred. Leaning over the barge's railing to converse with someone in a nearby vessel, King Theron lost his footing, teetering precariously close to the water's edge. Hands reached out instantly, steadying him, but in the brief commotion, his cherished white slipper slipped from his foot. It landed on the river's surface, bobbed for a fleeting moment, then sank from sight. A cry arose. Swimmers, dive in. Those in adjacent boats leaned low, trailing hands through the water. Many plunged into the river, searching frantically. But despite all efforts, the slipper remained lost to the current. Almost immediately, the king complained of returning discomfort, declaring his inability to walk. He was carried home, utterly disconsolate. In the ensuing days, the river became a hive of activity. The king offered a handsome reward for the slipper's return. News spread rapidly to neighboring realms, attracting fortune hunters eager to claim the prize. They scoured the banks, dredged the channels, and cast nets, all to no avail. They walked the same shores, sifted the identical mud, yet the slipper remained elusive. Lyra observed the repeated failures, watched her father's hope dwindle daily. One morning, her resolve hardened. She made a public declaration. In addition to her father's reward, she would bestow her hand in marriage upon whoever succeeded in this daunting quest. Privately, however, Lyra doubted the slipper would ever surface. The river was deep and had claimed far greater treasures. Her true hope lay hidden, that perhaps someone possessing ingenuity, someone worthy of her respect and affection, might devise a more creative solution to her father's affliction. Like every soul in the kingdom, Elian heard Princess Lyra's proclamation. Though merely a servant, he was utterly captivated by the princess, by her sharp wit as much as her radiant beauty. He found her dazzling. Elian recalled his uncle Silas's bookshop, specifically a shelf dedicated to volumes on science and alchemy. He had pored over those books in his youth, captivated by the mysteries they unveiled. Magic shoes were beyond his ken, but the memory of Master Corvus secretly dusting the king's slipper with powder remained vivid. Logic dictated that the powder, not the slipper itself, must be the source of the pain relief. Elian resolved to seek the origin of the powder treatment rather than join the futile search for the lost shoe. He pursued this new course with tireless determination. While the riverbanks thronged with divers and searchers, Elian dedicated every spare moment to his uncle's bookshop. It was a sanctuary, piled high with tomes of every description. Cookbooks jostled against worn histories. Classical texts in myriad languages leaned against stacks of novels and storybooks. Poetry collections lay scattered about. Here and there, a cozy, worn armchair invited patrons to lose themselves for hours in a chosen volume. Elian haunted the nooks and crannies of Master Silas's little shop. When duties called him away, he borrowed books on alchemy and herbalism, carrying them back to the palace to study in stolen moments. One day, buried within a dusty treatise on herbal lore, he found it, mention of a plant thriving in a specific locale on the plains of a nearby kingdom. Its pollen, renowned for alleviating pain, required harvesting by moonlight and resisted dilution or dissolution. It had to be applied in its pure, powdery state. Consulting the maps available to him, Elian calculated the journey would take approximately a week on horseback. A horse, however, was a luxury neither he nor his uncle possessed. Anyone he knew fortunate enough to own such an animal could scarcely spare it for several weeks. Yet, reaching this miraculous plant represented his sole prospect of resolving the king's plight and just possibly winning Lyra's hand. Risking everything, he decided to petition the king directly at the next public audience. Later that week, he joined the queue of citizens waiting outside the royal chambers. These audiences were invariably lengthy, taxing affairs, and King Theron's patience tended to fray as the day wore on. Unfortunately for Elian, he stood near the end of the line. After many hours, with only a few petitioners remaining, Elian finally stood before the king. Theron gestured impatiently, indicating Elian should speak quickly. "Your Highness," Elian began, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "I believe I may have discovered a means to cure your ailment, but I require the loan of a horse." Gasps rippled through the assembled courtiers. The sheer audacity, a servant boy requesting a royal steed, proposing he could succeed where experts had failed, was preposterous. Sensing his time was short, Elian pressed on. "There is a flower," he explained, "that grows in a particular place. I know its location, but reaching it on foot would take a month. If your Highness could but lend me a horse, I could return within 2 weeks and relieve your suffering." Murmurs and stifled laughter arose from the nobles. The king shifted in his throne. Elian braced for dismissal. But the king's response stunned everyone. "Give this boy a horse and send him on his way," Theron declared, silencing the room. "If he can achieve what all of you could not, it will be well worth it." With a dramatic flourish, he waved Elian away and dismissed the remaining audience members, Princess Lyra, seated nearby throughout this extraordinary exchange, felt a surge of intrigue. This young man's sensible, alternative approach commanded her immediate respect. She admired cleverness and his courage in presenting such a bold request before the king was undeniable. Though wary of false hope, the princess secretly wished Elian might indeed conjure a miracle. Meanwhile, Elian hastened to prepare. News of his audience spread like wildfire through the palace corridors. Every servant soon whispered about the fireplace cleaner's audacious mission. A sense of solidarity emerged. The kitchen staff packed him generous provisions. The groom selected one of the sturdiest horses from the royal stables. All eyes were now upon Elian. He departed the next morning, equipped with food, water, the precious herbalism book, and a map from his uncle. Master Silas held great faith in his nephew, hoping Elian's diligence and bravery would lead him to the cure. Soon, Elian found himself farther beyond Ethelgard's familiar confines than he had ever ventured. He crossed the serene river, traversed the dense forest, navigated a windswept mountain pass, and finally emerged onto the vast grassy plains beyond. He rode relentlessly, pausing only for essential rest. When immense fields of waving wildflowers unfurled before him, he knew he had arrived. Retrieving the vital herbalism book from his saddlebag, he let his horse graze and began methodically searching the area, comparing the flora to the illustration in his hand. It consumed the better part of the day. As the sun dipped towards the horizon, painting the sky in fiery hues, he discovered a large cluster of white blossoms, perfectly matching the book's description. His treasure was found. He unpacked some provisions, sat amidst the fragrant grasses, and ate his supper contentedly, awaiting nightfall. According to the text, darkness would coax the flowers open, revealing their precious gift. He drifted into slumber beneath the twilight's fading embers. The hoot of a night owl startled him awake some time later. He sat up in the cool darkness, rubbing sleep from his eyes. There, luminous in the moonlight, stretched a sea of open blooms. Taking his jar, just as the book instructed, he gently tapped each open flower, carefully shaking the glittering pollen into the container. Patiently, methodically, he moved from cluster to cluster until the jar was completely full. He secured the cap tightly and placed the jar safely in his saddlebag. As dawn painted the eastern sky, Elian was already urging his horse homeward. Yet a question nagged at his mind. What if the powder failed? Everything hinged on his faith in this ancient remedy. Back through the windy pass he rode, back through the shadowed forest. Within a week, the familiar silhouette of Ethelgard appeared on the horizon. He crossed the soaring bridge, his heart a mixture of exhilaration and trepidation. His return to the stable yard caused considerable stir among the staff. Servants gathered around, eager for news. Had he found it? What was the journey like? Would the cure truly work? Elian responded politely, but deferred their questions, withdrawing the precious jar and tucking it carefully into his coat pocket. As the crowd dispersed, he approached one of the lady's maids, bowing slightly. "Might I impose upon your kindness for a small favor?" he asked. "Would it be possible to borrow a soft brush? The sort a lady might use for applying face powder." "Yes," the maid replied readily, and fetched one for him while he waited. Brush in hand, Elian returned the herbalism book and map to his uncle's shop, keeping the jar of pollen close. He would present himself at the king's audience tomorrow. By the following day, news of Elian's return had permeated the city. The bold young servant, previously unnoticed, was now the subject of intense curiosity. At the king's express command, Elian was granted the first audience of the day. As the majestic, carved double doors to the throne room swung inward, he inhaled deeply, straightened his shoulders, and fought to quell the rising tide of doubt. He walked towards the dais where King Theron sat, Princess Lyra at his side. The chamber was unusually crowded. It seemed the entire court had assembled for this spectacle. Bowing low, Elian began. "Your Majesty, I have returned with what I believe will end your pain," he stated clearly. "But it requires no special shoe." The king eyed him skeptically. Elian continued, producing the jar and the small brush from his coat. "If you would permit me access to the shoe you currently wear, I shall demonstrate." A ripple of astonishment went through the room. A commoner requesting the king's own shoe was unprecedented. Yet, at a nod from Theron, a royal attendant knelt and removed the silk slipper from the king's foot. Elian inclined his head respectfully, took the king's shoe, and carefully uncapped the jar. Using the borrowed brush, he lightly dusted the slipper's interior with the moon-harvested pollen, mirroring the actions he'd witnessed Master Corvus perform that night beneath the bed. The application complete, the moment of truth arrived. Elian handed the shoe back to the attendant, who gently eased it onto the king's foot. Elian risked a glance at Lyra. Her eyes were wide, her breath held captive. The king stood. He flexed his ankle. He took a tentative step, then another. A slow smile spread across his face, blossoming into radiant joy. He hopped lightly, then began to dance, waving his hands exuberantly above his head. The throne room erupted in a cacophony of chatter as 100 nobles reacted to the miracle they had just witnessed. But for Elian, only Lyra's reaction mattered. Shyly, he turned and met her gaze directly. To his profound relief, she smiled back, a genuine, radiant smile. Though all attention remained fixed on the jubilant king, These two knew in that shared glance that their own story had just begun. And so, King Theron was truly himself once more. Realizing the original slipper held no inherent magic, he commissioned an entire wardrobe of exquisite footwear in various colors, each ready to receive its dusting of potent pollen. Festivities and celebrations filled the calendar that year, but none surpassed the splendor of the wedding of Princess Lyra and Elian. The pair became inseparable, often seen strolling the palace gardens, even before their nuptials, lost in animated conversation. Together, they founded an extensive library within the palace walls, stocked naturally by delighted Master Silas. It boasted comfortable armchairs, towering rolling ladders, and broad tables displaying large atlases. For Lyra and Elian agreed they both had much reading yet to do. King Theron rarely ventured into the library, but he was happy again, and with his joy returned the vibrant spirit of the glittering city on the river, and its citizens looked to the future with confidence, knowing their lives under the eventual reign of Lyra and Ilion would continue to be blessed by merriment, prosperity, and uncommon good sense. Let your focus drift now inward toward the landscape of imagination. Our scene materializes on a hushed thoroughfare within a metropolis, sometime after the sun has relinquished the sky. Amber luminescence spills from the street lamps, pooling warmly on the pavement, though ensconced in urbanity, a faint, familiar thrum of crickets persists beneath the city's layered murmurings. Distant traffic, the cadence of footsteps on other avenues, voices heading towards late suppers or evening diversions. Yet this particular side street remains steeped in quietude. An automobile glides past infrequently, but mostly the only figures observed have been solitary dog walkers or souls migrating toward more vibrant arteries of the city. Before you looms an edifice of considerable height, its facade a sheer curtain of glass, reaching for the deepening indigo heavens. Clouds drift overhead, catching the city's scattered radiance, painted thereby in swaths of white, ochre, rose, and here and there cerulean. Briefly, you pivot away from the structure, surveying the skyline that unfurls beyond the street's confines. The city sprawls, an immense, breathing entity. Pinpricks of light wink alive or extinguish as lives transition. Office to home, home to rendezvous. Night shifts commence. Distant skyscraper windows ignite just as others surrender their glow. Such relentless vitality pulses here, an invigorating current. A sense of connection hums within you. Knowing countless others navigate their own narratives alongside yours, sharing this urban chapter, however remotely. With a sigh suffused with contentment, you turn back. The building's glass skin mirrors the urban phosphorescence and the ethereal procession of clouds. No signage adorns the reflective surface, merely a number. You'd stumbled upon the address quite by chance, inscribed on a flyer tacked to a lamppost, its tearaway slips dangling beneath, advertising a tantalizing destination, the Ethereum Spa. With the evening stretching unstructured before you, it felt an opportune moment to investigate this curiosity. The entrance is mirrored glass, obscuring the interior, despite the evident illumination within. Only your own reflection gazes back, superimposed against the cityscape behind. A long, burnished metal bar serves as the handle. No time like now, you muse, extending a hand to push gently. The door yields inward, revealing the soft embrace of warm white light. You step across the threshold, the door whispering shut behind you. For a beat, you stand motionless, allowing your vision to acclimate from the exterior dimness. An elegant vestibule unfolds. Flanking the entrance stand substantial white ceramic planters, each cradling tall, fan-like frames that inject verdant grace into the predominantly white and cream palette. Directly ahead lies a bank of elevators, each accented with polished gold trim. This same lustrous metal adorns the call buttons and the overhead light fixtures. The lobby appears otherwise unadorned. No reception counter, no corridors branching off, just the elevators and your presence. Marble flooring echoes your footsteps softly as you approach the nearest lift. A moment's consideration, then you depress the button marked with an upward arrow. The rooftop, after all, is your destination. Seconds later, a delicate chime signals the imminent parting of gleaming white doors. They retract to unveil a glass-walled elevator car, also trimmed in gold. Every surface gleams, impeccably maintained. Stepping inside, you turn to the control panel. At the apex, a button bears the simple letter A. Beside it, elegant engraving declares Ethereum Spa. You press it softly. The same subtle chime sounds before the doors seal. With barely a sigh, the glass capsule commences its ascent. Moving upward at an unhurried pace, it affords a full appreciation of the building's design. The transparent walls offer an unobstructed vista through the structure's own glass exterior. Mesmerized, you watch the city unfurl beneath, its lights glittering toward the horizon. Long past sunset now, only the faintest vestige of solar fire lingers in the far distance, a deep, bruised orange fading into the encroaching blackness. Gazing higher past the spires and towers, above dwellings and billboards, a nocturnal canvas dotted with stars reveals itself. A few attenuated clouds drift languidly, mirroring the city's glow as they pass. The spectacle is truly breathtaking. With each floor gained, the panorama expands. Taxis and cars shrink, becoming mere multi-hued specks far below. Traffic signals and illuminated signs transform into fairy lights, diminutive enough to adorn a window pane. You glide skyward as if destined for the stars themselves, until the elevator decelerates to a gentle stop. The delicate chime resonates once more. This time, the opening doors reveal an opulent waiting area. Large, leafy botanicals, kin to those downstairs, occupy each corner, their presence augmented by hanging vines that cascade down the walls behind them. To one side sits a check-in desk, its front emblazoned in gold, with the same fanciful script from the elevator, the Ethereum Spa. The wall behind it is a marvel, a floor-to-ceiling waterfall fountain, curtains of water streaming down glass into a shallow basin below. For a moment, you close your eyes, absorbing the tranquil murmur of the cascade. The sound itself seems to smooth the edges of your thoughts. You inhale deeply, welcoming a nascent calm, and exhale, feeling instantly refreshed. Upon opening your eyes, you find someone now stands behind the desk, awaiting you. A warm smile greets you as she beckons you closer. You recount finding the spa's address, explaining how the name alone piqued your curiosity. Many find us that way, she responds softly. We are something of a hidden jewel, she adds, expressing pleasure that your path led you here this evening. She outlines various offerings, but recommends the Starlight Immersion for first-time visitors, promising time in one of the spa's finest chambers, culminating in a soak beneath the open sky. That sounds utterly restorative, you reply. She presents you with a robe and complimentary slippers, then indicates a hallway to the left. That is where you'll begin when you are prepared, she instructs, offering your thanks, and with a smile of quiet anticipation, you proceed down the indicated corridor. The first door opens into a changing room. You don the robe, impossibly soft, enveloping. It features generous pockets and a deep hood, which you momentarily pull up, rubbing the plush fabric against your cheek, coaxing a satisfied smile. Letting the hood fall back, you slide your feet into the matching slippers, a perfect fit. You settle onto a simple yet refined bamboo bench, seemingly sculpted from a single piece, bent and carved into its fluid form. Mentally tracing its lines, pondering its creation, your thoughts drift into restful channels. Lingering anxieties from the day dissipate within this serene sanctuary. Your mind feels open now, receptive to curiosity, to unhurried contemplation. It's as if mind and body alike are finally permitted to breathe deeply, rhythmically, unbound from the day's frantic tempo. As you breathe, you become aware of the soothing aroma of lavender suffusing the air, carrying with it a wave of relaxation that permeates your being. Your eyelids grow heavy as you focus on the gentle fragrance. You're utterly present, anchored in this moment, within these surroundings, here at the Ethereum Spa. Presently, the sound of quiet footfalls in the hall reaches you. Opening your eyes, you see the attendant from the desk has returned to escort you. Rising from the bamboo bench, you follow her further down the hall. She turns right, guiding you toward a dimly lit room on the left. Once your eyes adjust to the subdued illumination, she ushers you into an adjoining space that steals your breath. 2 entire walls are floor-to-ceiling glass, commanding a near panoramic vista of the city. At the room's heart sits a hot tub, its water bubbling vigorously around integrated jets. The steam carries the distinct scent of lavender throughout the chamber. A narrow bamboo walkway leads from the entrance to the tub's edge. But the room's most arresting feature is the constellation of candles. Hundreds of white pillar candles adorn the floor, their flames flickering, dancing, reflecting in the glass walls, mirroring the city lights beyond. Glancing upward, you see the ceiling is mirrored glass, creating a dazzling illusion of myriad stars twinkling above with every reflected candle flame. This space is yours for as long as you wish, she murmurs. You gaze, awestruck, at the luminous scene before thanking her as she departs. You tread the bamboo path, navigating between rows upon rows of shimmering candles. The individual dance of each flame reminds you of fireflies blinking against a summer night. The path terminates at the tub, a perfect square, elevated slightly. Its outer edge is lined with bamboo slats, forming benches for respite. The calming lavender scent is pronounced here, yet gentle, not overwhelming. Closing your eyes, you could almost imagine standing amidst lavender bushes, swaying in a midsummer breeze. But the warm steam and the soft burble of the jets soon draw you from reverie back to the tangible present. You inhale deeply, noting how the fragrant air fills your senses. Then exhale, discerning the aroma's complexity mingling with the vapor. Now you are ready. You pause momentarily on the bamboo bench before slowly immersing your feet. Warmth radiates through your body the instant the effervescent water touches your soles. Unwilling to rush, you dangle your feet near the surface, feeling the bubbles churn beneath your toes. Then, calmly, you lower your feet fully, soles, toes, heels, up to your ankles. Shifting your weight, you allow the water to climb your shins, your calves. Finally, the moment arrives. You surrender completely, lowering yourself into the tub. The clear, lavender-infused water, enveloping and supporting you. After a few moments, you adjust your position until the jets gently knead your lower back and shoulder blades. With each pulse of warmth and bubbles, you feel tension dissolving, muscles unknotting. Settled, you gaze through the glass at the city sprawled below. Skyscrapers preside over apartment blocks, which in turn dwarf parks filled with trees, rendered silver by moonlight. Vehicles flow in streams of white and red light, crisscrossing the busy streets. Above, the city's own luminescence paints the sky, yet a magnificent array of stars still pierces the veil, peeking from behind errant clouds, drifting across the nocturnal expanse. For a time, you lose yourself in the profound tranquility of the moment. The duration spent in the bubbling sanctuary, watching the city sparkle, becomes immeasurable. Eventually, though, a desire for something cooler arises, a different texture to conclude this restorative evening. You emerge from the hot tub, wrapping the soft robe around yourself, burrowing into its comforting embrace. Soon the attendant reappears. The final experience awaits outside, she says, her smile hinting at something special. The thought is intriguing. Anticipation stirs within you. She leads you from the candle-lit chamber, down another hallway. At its end, she pushes a long metal bar, opening a glass door. You follow her out onto the rooftop proper. A light breeze greets you, making the warm, snug robe and slippers feel even more welcome. The air isn't cold, however. It possesses the perfect crispness for a night like this. She proceeds past wicker armchairs, adorned with plump cushions, past more potted plants in their white ceramic vessels, past a pair of daybeds, designed for languid afternoons. She halts before the most stunning swimming pool you have ever beheld. An infinity edge creates the illusion of water merging seamlessly with the skyline. Of all the vistas tonight, this is unequivocally the finest. Again, it is yours to enjoy for as long as you desire, she informs you before turning back toward the interior. You offer your thanks for her gracious hospitality, then turn back to the pool. It glows a striking turquoise blue, illuminated by soft lights shimmering beneath the surface. Tentatively, you dip a toe in. Heated. No need to worry about chilliness up here. You take your time entering, descending shallow steps into a waiting area. At the bottom, the water reaches only your waist. You move toward a deeper section. Soon, buoyancy takes over. You draw your legs up, perform a few lazy kicks, then lean back, floating, eyes turned skyward. The heavens tonight are strewn with countless stars, an impossible tally even if you floated here for hours. Instead, you locate familiar constellations, watching clouds drift across them on the gentle currents of air. The warm water cradles you like a comforting embrace as you drift idly across the pool's surface, surrendering to its subtle movements. Your focus narrows, the lap of water against your back, the familiar scent of the pool mingling with steam rising into the night air. The distant stars and nearer clouds, the temperature on your skin, a tapestry of sensation. In this suspended moment, gratitude washes over you for the pool, the sky, the city itself, all the surrounding beauty. Silently, you offer words of kindness to yourself. It was your own impulse, after all, that led you here, your decision to embrace the unknown tonight. The power of small choices can be easily overlooked, but tonight you feel thankful for them, for guiding you to this place of profound calm and centering. This gratitude fills you, expanding into a sense of peace, of openness. Your heart feels full, reconnected to the pulse of the city, to every other soul inhabiting it tonight. This place, this experience, is now woven into the fabric of your journey, as are all the lives animating the metropolis below. Finding your balance, you sit up, paddling gently toward the infinity edge. Here, you rest your head on your folded arms, gazing out at the cityscape and the star-dusted firmament. You are welcome to remain as long as you wish, to return home only when sleep beckons. But for now, you will simply savor the calming vista, the sensation of warm water surrounding you. You are utterly, completely at peace, here at the Ethereum Spa.